welcome to another episode of Leaving the Farm with Pat and Tammy. I've got Pat with us tonight. How are you, Pat?
Hi, I'm good. Fighting the fight,
Absolutely. It's been a heck of a week.
Yeah, it really has. It's been nonstop corporate attack, something going on in the atmosphere. Yesterday was just a really interesting day, but feeling better today. Braving.
Got to keep moving forward.
That's it. What are you going to do? Move forward.
Absolutely. We're just moving on forward. The body in motion stays in motion. That's physics. Regardless of the chaos that they find themselves in and how much they want to terrorize us, that's all they got. And this domestic terrorism perpetrated upon us by corporate security guards, corporations, corporate governance, and the overall League of Nations Congress, or the entity with transgression, this is all going to end. It will end shortly, and it will end with a bang, I'm sure, because, and in that sense, it's a major surprise to them. We're treading in uncharted waters here. They really, really want to hide. They want to protect each other, regardless of the corruption, because nobody wants their hands dirty. They don't want to evidence themselves as being the criminal. However, that's kind of what's occurring, and I don't think they realize, the body of water that they find themselves in, such as a boiling pot, and they're the frogs, not us.
Boiling pot with the frog. Yep.
Absolutely. All of the frogs jumped out of the water. They got hot. They're tired of the games, tired of the crap. And so this week, what we got evidence this week was intentional and voluntary withdrawal from the International Monetary Fund in two different cases. Now, we've evidenced that one, an attorney is perpetrating against a female and taking advantage of her, and in the other one, the judge is taking advantage of a female. And, this creates voluntary withdrawal through the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, as to the special drawing rights of these corporations.
Okay.
And in order to get the special drawing rights, first of all, the Department of Justice has driven policy or corporate policy to the extreme. So in their directives, they're directing court, judges, prosecuting attorney, and law enforcement, no matter what, not to arrest the female, even if she's a perpetrator of domestic violence, not to arrest a female, even if she's a perpetrator of sexual abuse of females or children, not to arrest. And in their directives, they're directing law enforcement, judges, and prosecuting attorneys that if they're not seeing the male as the main victim or the main perpetrator of crimes in their schematic, then law enforcement, judges, and prosecuting attorneys are to be said to be maintaining bias, and they will lose their special drawing rights. Okay, now that is perverted on its face. It's unlawful on its face. And those are not the directives that are handed out by the International Monetary Fund. Now, the International Monetary Fund is there holding and maintaining the reserve accounts, or such as the Federal Reserve, and those accounts are there to protect victims, honest and true victims of whatever may befall them. And what's happening is that, the federal, state, or Department of Justice has come in there to generate the most money they can generate on the backs of human beings, using female victims as fodder. And in a recent example, a female victim child was in court, having to appear against a perpetrator of a crime against her. And what people do not see on its face is that when such as a predator or pedophile is charged with a crime, they're going into court, and the ultimate goal is renting the child to them. And Caesar is garnering the rent money from the pedophile assaulting the child. So that child is never really made whole. That child is never held to a different standing at all, even though they were destroyed or whatever happened, based on the pedophile's actions. But the courts are cleaning in. They're coming in and raising these children. They're raising females, raising family, raising anything they can in order to drum up that revenue through the Department of Justice and their directives. However, again, if they're evidence not to be protecting females or not to be protecting actual victims of crimes, they're intentionally and voluntarily withdrawing from the International Monetary Fund as to specifically the special drawing rights. And that means that they're shutting down the Federal Reserve all by themselves. And what's going on?
Hello. Did we lose Tammy?
Yeah, it sounds that way. Just keeping an eye on the board here. Good evening, everyone. Always
fun.
Yeah, always fun. Yeah, we had a hell of a time last night. If anyone was tuned in, the hacking that we were getting. For those that are on Facebook, I want to make a quick announcement. I have posted a link that you can check your security. Actually, someone just reported back that their IP and computer is actually recorded at a Masonic temple. Believe that or not.
Are you kidding?
So, for those that don't have me on Facebook, I've already posted the link. I would urge everyone to go and have a look, see what kind of interest you're generating. I can only imagine when I check mine out. But anyway, yeah, it's on Facebook. You can get me at kate.rene.5. That's kate.rene.5. And I'll be posting it all through Skype as well, so all my Skype contacts will have that information as quickly as I can get it so they can check their own computers. Yeah, she's getting bounced around. She's already been in and back, in and back. There she is again.
There she is again. Let's see if she stays. I wanted to ask her to break down. Well, she's gone again.
Yep, bingo.
I wanted to ask her to break down the... I think in some cases people may not understand the level where she's explaining the Department of Justice to the International Monetary Fund and how they relate and who's actually doing, like, where is it, like, is it the International Monetary Fund who is actually got these reserves for real victims and that's like a legitimate, fund for them? And is it the Department of Justice that is breaching this and has twisted it for the courts here and all that? So she's getting a really good time here.
Bounced again. She gets in and gets knocked out. Again, this is a stranger than fiction game, and you can bet your bottom dollar that they've got all the back doors set up. And I know there is absolute remedy within there. They have to have it. The universal law dictates it, so it is there. There is no question.
Right.
It's just a matter of finding the way to it and to expose the whole thing, and that will collapse the system, no question.
Well, she's talking about, Tammy's mentioned a couple of cases where, because they did not follow through, because they actually abused the females by putting them into the human trafficking loop, that automatically sets them, it cuts them from the International Monetary Fund, the Department of Justice, and blows out the Fed. So be interested to hear the details of this, and it's just it's despicable what they're doing with the courts, just from every level, through the fraudulent foreclosures and the continual battle and smashing of people where it comes to just insane utility, charges, things that are, they won't even. There's no way to dispute. They won't.
Well, they don't play by their own rules, but then
they
again,
don't.
Their rules are written around so that they've got one thing in place that keeps them in honor, and as soon as that's uncovered, the deception is uncovered there, their total dishonor will be revealed. That's the awakening. That's the destruction of the legal system.
Well, they must really be in a tizzy to be messing with people. Just, they really can't stand the communication. I was cut off this morning for something that was completely their error and no notice. Took me hours to get this thing fixed.
Anyway,
just distraction.
Yep, and it looks like Tammy's called in on the landline. So, you there, Tammy?
Yep, I am now.
Good.
Stay connected on the internet again. Apparently, there's going to be a lot of self-censorship and all the crap that comes with not being corporate media.
Well, good luck with that, guys. You've lost already. That that goes without saying.
She's gone again.
Right? No, she's still there on the phone. That's the Skype just got knocked, so no problem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I just took away my hosting ability, which is such a frustration, but it's really not that big a deal. So what happened this week was they were warned. The evidence was on record in various places. I mean, I can name almost every court case. However, they're not. Most people aren't following through yet until we haven't been perfecting the indictment. The evidence is all on court record. This is in every court case. Pick one. You've got human trafficking in every one. In each foreclosure, they're not foreclosing on real property. They're foreclosing on real estate. And the estate, as everybody knows, is the human body, and this is always going to be human trafficking. This is kidnapping, promoting prostitution, because you're kept in servitude under the action of debenture, which is maintained under the Q6 number provided by the Small Government Loan Service, which most people now know as SBA or Small Business Association. That entity is the Small Government Loan Service, and these loans are maintained by debenture or your earning power. That means that you are kept as a perpetual slave, a perpetual servant, and this is human trafficking. This is always human trafficking. It begins with, such as the borrower's covenant in these mortgages. The borrower's covenant maintains that the estate has been lawfully seized and is an unenforceable contract. It can be stopped with the equitable estoppel. Borrower's covenant, when it maintains the seizure on the estate, that is you. That is your children. Those are your heirs. The word issue in the law means descendants. So when you have issues before the court, you are putting your descendants before the court. This, again, is human trafficking. Now, what we've been asking is, help me, help me, help me, help me, help me, don't shoot me, please help me. And this is not working out because the wolf is guarding the hen house. The wolf is up there in a black dress. You have attorneys or gestors, and they should still have their jingly shoes on and their little jingly hats, because that is all they are. They facilitate negotiarum gestio, which is the court process, and the attorney or gestor is the one that's gesticulating the title or the dead thing with the judge trustee. Now, everybody needs to get on board. They need to stand up, and they need to stand up now, because there's a lot of people that are actually doing this and indicting. However, as we've found out today, recently, the U.S. Marshal Service is a corporate entity and corporate security guard. And apparently they really like the 10% that they get as the leave-in from the federal government, who's taking in 90% all around on this shakedown. The court actually only gets 3% on a performance bond. The rest, 90%, is going to the League of Nations. So it's a perpetual shakedown of each nation or foreign state, which is each county. And as each county is shaken down, they're not realizing that they actually have more authority than the feds, because they have obliterated the contract. They have abrogated the original contract, which is Article 1 through Article 1, Section 9, Clause 3 of the Constitution. The abrogation occurred with the Articles of Confederacy. Article 12 pledged and charged the United States, when in reality the United States was to be with credit. They were to be maintained on general welfare, Article 1, Section 8, Clauses 1 and 2. So you have this federal entity, which was created by the Articles of Confederacy, later known as the League of Nations Covenant. Now, the jump in between is merely the Articles of Confederacy was a chain of events, and it states this in the very first paragraph where it states that the United States of America is a style, S-T-I-L-E, which is a chain of events. Now, what's happening is everybody's adhering to the federal government. They want to be in a republic. They want to be Republican or conservative or whatever misnomer or title that you're given by this entity. However, if you just simply drop the name, drop the title, you cannot be owned anymore. The federal government is not your friend. Friend of the court is the IRS. The Internal Revenue Service generates revenue to the original 13 colonies because they fit internally to it. The 1789 Judiciary Act, for example. Now, what the Internal Revenue Service does is it generates revenue to the original 13 colonies by the 1789 Judiciary Act. They do that through each and every court, each and every time you appear in front of a judge, you're generating revenue. When you're going in on a child custody case, you are putting your children in the system. When you go in on a divorce, you are putting yourself in the system. And this is brought into by mainly the female, because she's specialized. And again, we go back to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. She's specialized because she's a protected class. The federal government has decided to notice or notify the House of Lords that there's all these infirms in the United States. There's a whole bunch of insane individuals needing to be protected under the laws of infants, and in that capacity, you're being protected to death. This is the League of Nations again. Now, how they do this is by address to the House of Lords, to the holder of the Great Seal. Now, every time that the clergy administration, otherwise known as president, Obama just did one, called the State of the Union Address. Now, this indicates the state of being that you're in. The State of Union Address maintains to the House of Lords that you are all sick, you're all infirm, you're all insane, and the federal government needs money to help you and protect you to death. Now, the House of Lords only hears from such administrations unless you are contacting them. And the United States citizens doesn't realize that they need to contact the House of Lords, of course, because they think there's some kind of separation between England and here. However, every court action, every law, every code, every statute is interpreted down from ecclesiastical law handed out by the House of Lords, the Lord spiritual and the Lord temporal. Now, you are separated back at the separation of the spiritual and temporal that William I passed out, and at that point in time, you were given to the bishop, the body's given to the bishop, and from there, you are going to be human trafficked by the sheriff, provost marshal, and clergy, which is the court of England. Now, the House of Lords has no idea that there's a whole bunch of living entities here in the United States of America. The House of Lords gets its yearly report or bi-yearly report by address of the president, which is another means of detainer. If you look at a bill of address, that is a form of detainer. This is how they are kidnapping you and holding you hostage. So as you patronize this thing, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And what's happening is that as they go into chaos, they're spun out. These are crazy individuals. They are actually insane. They are psychopaths. They have no human emotions. They have no compunction. They have no feeling or whatever. They view you as a numerical value or denomination. That maintains that you have some kind of value, and that's the reason my question is that. What denomination are you? What are you worth? Well, what do you want me to do? What's your value? And this is the way that this is. Now, everybody needs to stand up. Recently, in several court cases, we were standing up, and we have them under indictment, and apparently we're not applying enough pressure on them. And so we've been intimidated, and we've been harassed, we've been stalked, we've been threatened again with coercion, and they're not holding back. So in one case in particular, I would ask all of our listeners tonight to pick up the information that we sent out this past week, otherwise known as the indictment against Chuck Bell and Andrew P. Stewart, and fax that to the prosecuting attorney. Again, the fax number is 574-235-9761. And you can also call their offices and ask them why they're not moving on the indictment at 574-235-9599. Okay? We also have the criminal judge, John Marata. His fax number is 574-235-5097. Sheriff Greg fax number is 574-235-7536. Judge David Chapeau, fax number 574-235-6691. And the Chief Judge, Scopelitis, is fax number 574-235-6693. Now, when you fax, please include a cover letter that says you are a fully aware individual or a state of being, and that you'd like to know why they're not moving forward on these indictments. The indictments are actually perfected, the evidence is made known, and these individuals really, apparently, they want to lose their funding. However, the situation has been progressing where there's a lot more stalking and harassment, intimidation, and threats that are being maintained at the behest of the judge and the law firm that Andrew P. Stewart belongs to. And so at the time that I was having a conversation earlier with local law enforcement, they asked me to call this law firm and that they would be directed through this law firm. Okay, so I was asking them, if they're aware that they're corporate security guards, and apparently they're fully aware that they're corporate security guards. And it was the same effect with the U.S. Marshals and Sheriff, of course, has disappeared. And we found out just last week that the local law enforcement just uses the sheriff's stamp to make the sheriff appear wherever they want him to appear, which was quite interesting to find out, because the sheriff actually has more authority in each county than most realize outside of the commission state, which is the county commission. We're under low-intensity conflict. It's a war, but it doesn't feel like a war because we all think that we're getting rights and benefits out of it. And for all of the listeners out there, you need to look up low-intensity conflict. Useful idiot doctrine, which is another fun one because of the establishment of the use of Delphi everywhere. We're dealing with just absolutely a bunch of useful idiots. Some of them are useful innocents, and they're actually innocent of any crime. And before you indict them, you would want to determine that and use your discretion on that. Sorry for taking so much time. This has been quite a week.
You're saying that they use a sheriff's stamp wherever they want the sheriff to appear? They rubber stamp the authority?
Absolutely. He's nowhere to be found. He's been missing for the last 2 weeks. I call him to speak to the sheriff. Nowhere to be found. And when we were speaking to the local law enforcement, she was incredulous that, we didn't use our sheriff stamp the same way, apparently, because it's been so normalized in her mind. It's just normal for her to stamp the sheriff's name even when he's not around.
Wow.
She was surprised to be asked the questions that we were asking her of such authority, and she couldn't believe that, anybody would pose such a question, because apparently that's what you do with your sheriff. You hyphospate and stamp papers with the name.
So I wonder if there's anybody in the chat room that can let us know if those numbers came through clear enough and the names.
Oh, they came through clear here.
Okay.
I just want to go on that one point. Here we have another situation of useful idiots rubber stamping the supposed people of authority's name that are completely incompetent to do so based on their position. So anything that one of these idiots would stamp is garbage. And I think the sheriffs that allow that might be a little bit more careful, because they're culpable. That's fraud.
That's right.
And it's the same robo signature that a lot of people just got nailed for. But that wasn't what concerned me. My concern was for the sheriff himself, because his name is being bandied all about, stamped on paperwork, and from what I know and have witnessed evidence of, these are not legal instruments in any manner, shape, or form. And so when his name goes on there, he's the one that's liable for this. It is not law enforcement, and it is not the court. It is the name of the stamp. And so somebody needs to put their big boy pants on here and stop allowing their authority to be subverted. Yeah. If it's not on public law, if not, that's fine too. They can be indicted as well. But I'm assuming that based on our experiences last week, that the sheriff's office has been absolutely and methodically subverted by the federal state as well, or by the commission state. We're dealing with not only the United States Incorporated franchises, we're also dealing with the commission states through the 1802 Indemnification Convention, establishing the commission government, and it has the Uniform Law Commission, County Commission, yada yada. We're also dealing with the federal state, which is they're the ones that are shaking down the commission state and each United States Incorporated franchise in order to maintain its revenue. They don't care about the local counties. They don't care about the local judges. Any one of them, this is just a constant shakedown. And then, of course, the citizen gets shaken down from these local counties, local courts, because they're trying to drum up the revenue and maintain their profit margins and their quota. And those quotas are maintained at the International Monetary Fund for each country. There are no borders. Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, Pakistan, India, United States, we're all members of the International Monetary Fund. There are no borders. Each war generates revenue into the League of Nations coffers. Each time you disagree with your brother or sister at the immigration situation, you're generating revenue right into the League of Nations through the IMF. And you can stop this. You need to start standing up now. Everything has been absolutely subverted by the federal state. And, as it was exemplified this past couple weeks here, even our sheriffs are being bought off and paid to sit quietly in a corner twiddling their thumbs while quote law enforcement runs off with his stamp. So something's got to give here. We all need to get our heads out of our asses and rise all as one, because this isn't working out for me. I'll die for any one of you, but I kind of expected a lot of people join us in this fight because, what's the point of allowing the following lemmings to push me over the side of the cliff in their rush to follow the pipers? This is just really irritating now, and I really don't want the rest of the lemmings to push me off the cliff, and I'm telling you to stop quietly and nicely. But at some point in time, I think I'm going to turn on the rest of the lemmings because they're pushing me off the cliff, and I really don't want to go off the cliff, and I stand on behalf of everybody, and I'd like, some uproar here. We're in a war, we're being attacked, and we need to be in an uproar. We don't need to be on our couch watching The Simpsons or Family Guy.
There are so many people who are just they're not aware. Some of what you're talking about is maybe the first time some people have heard this. They're not aware that these low intensity conflicts are anything but individual hassles. They're not aware that they're all connected. That there's a methodology to this. And they haven't hit the point, where their back's against the wall, and to know the difference in a lot of cases, I think.
And that's part of this subjugation. It's required that you fall back on cognitive dissonance. Your mind, you're taught, everybody, not you. I mean, I'm generalizing, but you're taught cognitive dissonance or the ability to fall back on an easier to believe truth. And we've all said this. This can't be happening in my country. We've also said, man, it feels like I'm just surrounded in three ways. Everything that ever happens to me happens in three ways, and three different times. There's three things happen, and that's meta summa veta. That is politics. And so
you should break down that meta summa veta.
Right. When they have you in the chute, you have to be taken out. And this is the metaphor. Meta means self, for means knowledge in Greek. And this is the metaphor of, I can pick any number of them, but as the meta summa veta, you're looking at, the crucifixion of Jesus. Okay, so that metaphor is knowledge of the self. This is real time, people. It's not a historical book. This is how to get out of it, how to leave the farm. In that particular metaphor, you've got Jesus being attacked how many ways? By the law. You have the priests and elders and the governor coming up against him to crucify him. So you have priests, and then you have scribes, course writers, governor, everything else. Meta is self, soma is psychology, and veta is law. So you have three variants. GDP is determined by three different variants. Taxation, consumption is the first one. 1/3 of the GDP is in taxation and consumption. This goes along with your morality. That's the knowledge of the self. Morality. You have to be a good boy here. You have to be a good girl. You need to pay your taxes. Soma is medicine, psychology, and death. So that's 1/3 of the GDP value. You are the product. And so they're going to get you with psychology. Well, maybe we need a psychoval here. I guess you're just, maybe you're mentally insane because you're pushing back or whatever. And that, of course, is a lot tough. So you're going to be criminalized. So no matter what, if you haven't been targeted yet for IRS intervention, Department of Revenue, whatever, psychology by child custody case, divorce or criminalization, but then you don't live on this planet. And everybody gets this, including the officers of the court. And I've explained this before. Yes, you want to protect each other. Yes, that's great. You can protect each other. However, you are prisoners of war according to the 1929 Geneva Convention. You will get this. It will fall in your lap. And you Everybody wants to say, oh, you know what's happening to me? I keep my nose clean. I keep my nose clean. I've never done anything illegal or unlawful in my life. And here I am this week. I've been having a fun time with ulcers and boiling to the point where, you know, I find it hard to breathe. And this terrorism is terrorism. This is domestic terrorism employed upon us using low-intensity conflict. And the reason it's low-intensity conflict is so you do not notice this is happening. When CPS comes against you, you get scared. You revert back to yourself. You're not going to go around your neighbors. You're not going to talk about this with others. However, you need to. That's a requirement. You know, that's part of the way that they're attacking you. The easiest way to control a population is to control its children. Hitler said this in Mein Kampf. Now, everybody needs to realize this. The easiest way to control a population of any biology is to take its children and to hold its children hostage by court process and allow you, the biology, to buy your kids back by court process. This is all of the attorneys, for the attorneys, by the attorneys. And that's who the people are. When you go to the 14th Amendment, you will find that you are a citizen. A person born or naturalized is a citizen. That is what a citizen is. You're born, you have a birth certificate, or you're naturalized. You're a citizen. A person is a corporation. A person is an individual. That thing is the thing that has all the rights. Citizen doesn't have any rights. A citizen is a resident. Res in the law means thing. You are viewed as a thing to be negotiated. And again, we go back to the origins of the court process itself, negotiarum cessio. And of course, the turn, which they've gone to another landlord, they are referred to as negotiarum gestor, or the one who articulates the title in between the judge and himself. So when you appear in court, when you are the res, when you are a citizen, when you are anything other than a state of being, they are negotiating you. You will be hypothecated. You are maintained under color of law, which is only that imagination, the appearance or guise of something. That it's not law. It's not bound by anything. It doesn't have any tangible aspects whatsoever. You are being held hostage under color of law by action of bail. And the action of bail, ransom in the past was ransom. And at this time it is called bail. You have a bailiff in your courtroom. It's all under Marduk, all under Marduk's policy. They're worshiping Marduk, and it's all Baalism. And you can find this again in the Bible throughout, explaining, don't put yourself into court. Don't appear before them. Don't do this. Why are you taking this in front of somebody like this? You are supposed to take it to those who are least esteemed of the church. Least esteemed of the church. And the most profound thing that Jesus ever said was in 1 Corinthians 6. And he said, you can only fornicate with the Lord God. You can only fornicate by giving it your body. And again, we come back to citizen or res. That is the body. That is the body. So everybody needs to stop this. Drop the title. Stop claiming to be a res or a citizen. Stop being patriotic. Stop calling it your father. So this is something so horrifying. When you're calling it your father and you're being preyed on by it, you know, it's the most egregious form of pedophilia out there. And it's maintained and perpetrated by the federal government, by the League of Nations, by those who with transgressions, which is the word Congress. Congress, with transgression. You're allowing yourself to be transgressed.
When you're talking about calling the other, calling it the other father, you're saying that's through patriotism, right?
Absolutely. The word patriotism stems from the word patre, or father. It's the same as the word pope. Pope means father. Patre, patriotism. Patriotism is the action of patronizing something in exchange for protection. You're calling it your dad.
Religion is patronizing something in exchange for protection. Democratic theory is patronizing something in exchange for protection. And Stockholm Syndrome is patronizing your captor in exchange for protection.
Yeah.
Have you ever looked at the definition of Stockholm Syndrome?
You know, it just struck me with all this hysteria over the Second Amendment and the system buying all these arms and insane amounts of ammunition and all of the talk of the FEMA camps and, you know, the constant, you know, churning of this fear through media and on the internet and through patriots, so-called patriots, who are out there, you know, freaking out and, you know, calling radio stations and spewing, you know, vile amounts of insane biblical proportions of torture coming and all this bull. You know, if everybody's looking at that, no wonder the low-intensity conflict doesn't ring a bell.
Right.
Because they're all out there, they're all asking the question, you know, when are we going to do something? When are we going to do something? Because they're waiting for some physical, visual, you know, thing to appear, a checkpoint, some tank in the street, or some bullshit. And instead, I mean, we are being slaughtered silently because we don't talk to each other. We don't, you know, share what's happening and finding out that everywhere in your neighborhood this is going on, but people are just sinking below the surface without anybody noticing.
Absolutely. And that goes back to Stockholm Syndrome, or it's also called capture bonding. It's a psychological phenomenon in which hostages express empathy and sympathy and have positive feelings for their captors, sometimes to the point of defending them. Now, these patriots, they're under Stockholm Syndrome. They've been captured, and they're going to defend their captor to the death, although their captor is the one that's killing them. You know, they're being happily administrated to death in this society. And yet they still patronize their wolf. They're patronizing this thing, thinking that at some point in time, well, maybe something will change. Yeah, I know that I went through a hardcore divorce, and, you know, I ended up with every other weekend visit with my kids, or I've got a permanent restraining order against me, or whatever else. I lost my house, I lost my ass, I have the shirt on my back. Thank God I have the shirt on my back. No more.
Yeah, thank God,
no
right?
More. Right, no more.
For the crumbs.
This is attorney's onslaught against humanity. There's only one enemy, one adversary. That is the attorney, the judge, the fiduciary or feudal system under fiscal policy and under corporate governance. Now, you know, I'm not going to go up against Walmart. That's not a living entity. However, these judges that are allowing Walmart to prey on me are going to be held accountable. These attorneys that are working for Walmart or working for the bank are going to be held accountable because this is all human trafficking. Human trafficking has always been illegal. Kidnapping is illegal. Harassment, stalking, intimidation, all of these things are unlawful. And the buck has to stop here. It has to stop. So humanity cannot sustain much more without going insane. I mean, the attorney, if this is allowed to go on, and you can see it in Nazi Germany, you can see it in Cambodia with Pol Pot, all of these things, and humanity cannot sustain more of the onslaught. Otherwise, all you have left is these attorneys and psychologists. That's all you have left. And at that point, you know, they don't work. They're not going to take the burden.
They produce
nothing. And what's going to happen is that they'll literally be cannibalizing themselves until the human race is all the way out of existence. You know, and that's something that is so profound to me, is that the earth, no matter what people do to it or how many times an attorney's going to raise it, if humanity or the perception of humanity destroys this earth as much as it can bear, the earth always rights itself. it'll just wipe out humanity off of its dynamic. If we're not conducive to life, then other life is going to encroach upon us and wipe us out. They'll choke us out because we're the damage. We're the harm upon it. And allowing these attorneys to harm ourselves and allowing these courts to harm us and our children, we're instigating these things. We're allowing this to happen, and we're destroying ourselves through medicine, psychology, and death. Medicine, psychology, and law, sorry.
Maybe the general welfare that you talk about, maybe you could break that down and kind of pinpoint where that comes from and what it means.
Right, and that was the original contract, and most people are not aware of the actual Constitution or where it ends. The Constitution itself was the contract to allow the League of Nations or Congress at that time to be involved and allow corporations to come into the United States and make some money, not off of human beings. There was no full faith and credit. There was no credit. There was no Negotiable Instrument Act back in 1776. That contract goes from Article 1 to Article 9, Section 3. And in that, Section 3, or Clause 3, no bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. This says no bill of attainder or any law passed after this point in time. The rest of that Constitution was to be commentary. You'll find that the amendments are in it, like Article 5. Those don't apply because it ended at Article 1, Section 9, Clause 3. That means the end of the document. Now, Article 1, Section 8, Clauses 1 and 2 maintain powers of Congress. The powers of Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises to pay the debt and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. In this reference, there are two beings being attributed in that one statement. One is a landmass, and one is an actual human being. General welfare only applies to the human virtue. General welfare does not apply to a stick, does not apply to a rock, it does not apply to a road, it does not apply to a geographical location, such as the United States. It is applying to the United States of being as a whole, humanity, with the virtue to be maintaining under general welfare. That is the general welfare clause of the U.S. Constitution. Number 2 was to borrow money on the credit of the United States. You are only to have credit. You are not to have debt. That was created first in Article 1, Section 9, Clause 4 by the League of Nations. It was further ratified and altered by the 16th Amendment after Article 12 of the Articles of Confederation, where they pledged you and charged you, the United States, for their initial bankruptcy. You have been offsetting their bankruptcies, plural, for the last 200, 300 years almost. 1776, it was in October 15, 1777, before the ink was dry on the original Constitution, Article 1 through Article 1, Section 9, Clause 3, the League of Nations had maintained under Articles of Confederation in the annex to the League of Nations Covenant. And so what's gone on is that that federal state has charged you and pledged you to pay off and offset their bankruptcy. And you're still doing that as franchises now. Since the last bankruptcy of 33, you are now franchises of the United States Incorporated. And that's why you have your little driver's license, so you can do business as a franchise. That's what the driver's license means. You can do business as a franchise. And so part of my process, the forgiveness doc obliterates that franchise state of being. However, there's more to the process because you've got posting ability that they implemented with the 1794 Treaty of Amity, Commerce, and Navigation, where the United States was posted to offset the League of Nations debt to the Crown. And at that time, you're still being posted. Using or assuming a fictional name, which is the name a legal name is a fiction, it's color, The last name is what they have a patent on. That is a description of you. That is not a family name as you know family to be. Family in any type of law of science means species or genus. So your family name describes you as a new species of human, which allows patent ability. Because somebody's finding you. Somebody has found you and given you a last name. And what happens is that it's called a foundling hospital. And in 1864, under the 1864 Geneva Convention, these are places for prisoners of war. You are a prisoner of war, and when you are birthed or docked in a hospital setting, you are now a prisoner of war being found by these cocksuckers. In the 1929 Geneva Convention, which was in between the bankruptcy this last time, everybody went under corporate governance, even those without birth certificates and even those who have returned over to the Bar Association. And you can see that always around Article 72, I think, some of the look. My throat's getting dry a little bit. Pat, do you want to say something about what's been going on with you guys this week in the classroom?
Oh, I was just, last night I happened to be looking around at some old stuff, fees, feudal tenure, vassals, the levelers. This is not the first time, people have wanted freedom and have realized that they're, being oppressed. In England, this started right before, actually, the conquest over here. And it's just so, one of the hardest things for me was to actually realize that a feudal system was in place, that the same ancient things that, we think were so advanced because of technology, but just to read about this, to see that it is exactly the same thing, only we don't call people kings or lords necessarily. They have other titles. It's, going into the Declaration of Independence, there was a lot of people who didn't want to sign, didn't want any part of it. They protested what it was actually doing because of the potential for what we have now.
Right, and that's exactly what they're doing now again, especially with this Dorner police issue that we saw recently. What the federal government is trying to do is pit the citizenry against law enforcement. When law enforcement, I'll get these audios cleaned up and get them to the students too, but law enforcement is acting on the behest of these attorneys who reside on the county commission or board of governors. And so they have been taught that they don't do anything without the authority of an attorney, and of course they don't do anything without the authority of the court. So even prior to doing an arrest or anything else, they consult with their attorney, and of course they tell us to consult with our attorneys because that's how their life runs. They have no idea that they're not enforcing law. They don't know that they're puppets. They don't know that they're useful idiots. I would like to read Chapter 6 of the 1949 Geneva Convention here. It's quite short. Special provisions regarding officers and persons of equivalent status, Article 41. Upon the beginning of hostilities, belligerents shall be bound to communicate to one another the titles and ranks in use in their respective armies, with a view to assuring equality of treatment between corresponding ranks of officers and persons of equivalent status. Officers and persons of equivalent status who are prisoners of war shall be treated with regard to their rank and age. So these charges, attorneys, cops, whatever else, you are prisoners of war, and you're going to be taken into the system exactly the same way that the citizens are. You are going to be destroyed just exactly the way that it was during Nazi Germany. You will be annihilated. If you go back to the history of Nazi Germany, the people who made it out of Nazi Germany were the psychologists that were implementing the policy. Rudin came over here to this administration. And I didn't see any attorneys and I didn't see any judges survive the Holocaust, by the way. And you really, really, really need to go look and find out for yourself, research history, and find out what's going to happen to you, because you think that you are immortal, you think that you are untouchable, when in reality the laws are stacked against you, including the restricted principle of sovereign immunity and the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act. And again, back to Dorner, when the federal government starts turning the citizen against its internal systems, such as law enforcement, local administration, whatever else, that becomes a civil war. And it's exactly the same way that the League of Nations facilitated the last civil war in the United States. What they've done is they implemented some really egregious laws that none of us agreed with, such as slavery and whatever else. They were doing this. They were law-making these laws. Only lawmakers make these laws. And they got us to turn against each other and fight against each other, including high-ranking officials in the local government, unknowing of corporate policy or their directives therein. And people really need to be aware that, you think you're untouchable now. You're playing the game. You're raising citizens. However, your raising is even worse. During Nazi Germany, they were putting judges, attorneys, and psychiatrists, psychologists, the ones that did not make it out, into railroad car boxes and melting them with acid. And you really, really need to think about what to do, because it was, the citizenship, we were being taken into the gas chambers and put in front of firing squads. And the same thing occurred during Pol Pot's regime, Falkland, all of these other things. And our deaths were quick. The deaths of judges, attorneys, psychiatrists, psychologists, they weren't fun. But their captors had fun. We're dealing with straight-on psychopathy. Less than 3% of our overall population is psychopathic. And the other 97% actually human beings, because the majority are being pocketed by the system. And as I said, on a perpetual shakedown. And so when you're adhering to corporate policy, just remember that your time is coming, even if you don't want to adhere to public law. You think that you're safe now, you are not safe. Your time is coming, and it's not us. It's not these people. It is not these citizens. It is not ever a civil war until it is invoked by these attorneys, and they've done it, so many times in the past. Come on, these cocksuckers have burned witches. They've drowned witches. They burned Islamic females to prevent them from getting inheritance, and then they've told other cultures and other languages that widows are being burned by their dead husbands, okay? So you have a whole bunch of people in other countries that are spreading a story that at one point in time, widows were being burned alive to prevent inheritance. And the attorneys would point the finger over at the dead husband, and people were believing this shit. And when in reality it's attorneys. Attorneys want that inheritance. Attorneys, judges, League of Nations, these are all attorneys, and this is what they do. It's not just satanic, because I've met satanic people that are kind. I've met satanic people that they just believe in something else, like Satan or whatever, a tangible entity, and they have no clue how psychopathic attorneys, judges, and the League of Nations are. They're perfectly able and capable of slaughtering families on a slow process, in low intensity conflict.
And sleeping like a baby about it.
Absolutely. They're perfectly capable of preying on men, women, and children. That's the definition of a pedophile. any entity that is able to prey on a child is a pedophile. And this is what the whole court process is. When you go into family court, probate court, you have a child held hostage or more children held hostage by court process so that they can generate a buck. And this is always, always, always human trafficking, but only a pedophile can do that. So you have a pedophile in the black dress up there, you have a pedophile as your attorney, the other party has a pedophile as their attorney, and everybody's pit against each other so that there can be this predation on the children. And what needs to happen right now immediately is that everybody wakes up and they start protecting the children. The children. This is our only obligation. We are a animal. We are a biology. And without our children, without protecting those children, our life form, our biology does not go forward through time. They are slaughtering us, and they are using our children to do so. They are holding children hostage by court process, and they are slaughtering children one by one every day in the United States of America or the United States Incorporated. Every one of you would ask that this has got to end. It has to end now.
The slaughter, people might be thinking slaughter is like murder, and yes, that does happen, but that process of being kidnapped from your family, put into foster care, and, where people, like, I'm sure there are very nice foster parents out there, but there are also those who are looking for the buck, and it's not an unusual story to hear how children have died or been abused in situations where they just get lost in the system. But that whole process, what does it do to the consciousness of a child? It perpetuates everything that we need, what we see in this world now and consider crime, and why people are so afraid of each other because we're told that we can't, we're all somehow inherently evil, and we're all not to be trusted. If there were a food shortage, everyone would be being robbed by their neighbor. These kind of things, when in reality, the monsters that are created from the socioeconomic inequities, the constant raping and theft of anything earned, the lies that we're taught in school. All of these things make people, who they are, based on this false world, this false consciousness of life that this system has created. Human beings weren't created to sit in front of a tube and be fed images for hours and hours and hours, and sit in a box and be subjected to a limited choice of careers, or what careers, just menial labor. Everything of our imagination has been shut off from those left-brained schools that teach us from books that stem from people way back to the very beginning. Rand McNally and all of these things. We were told a certain thing is true, and it's a mind blower to find out that none of it is true. Everything has been spun from the American Indian, all treaties completely, broken. These beautiful people were crushed, killed, murdered, slaughtered to the degree that no one even counts them, but it's astronomical numbers.
Absolutely, and there's a political reason for that. We're here every Thursday, 7 to 9 Eastern, 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. GMT, as we're out of the UK on Critical Mass Radio. If you'd like to call in and, be on the show, the number to call is 661-467-2401. And again, you're listening to Leaving the Pfarm with Pat and Tammy, and we were talking about all sorts of stuff. because apparently my mind is not in focus tonight. So what we're dealing with is a horrifying onslaught perpetrated by the League of Nations. They have been indicted in at least one United States District Court case based on information provided as to their own contracts. These contracts include the 1794 Treaty of Amity, Commerce, and Navigation. You've got the Treaty of Peace that allowed you to be, the females to be the port. And that's something that, you know, the word important maintains that you have a port. You are with a port. And as breeding instruments or objects on a farm, that's all we are. That is all we are. Although you may be glorified, you may be specialized, you may feel important, you may feel special, immortal, like you can get away with anything in this society. And yes, the female here, it's been made lawless by legal process. However, she's just a use. She is just a tool, a political tool, in order to redistribute the male. And at the other end of your divorces and your custody cases, you lose, he loses. The children have been held hostage the whole time, human trafficked, kidnapped, and they lose the most. So you need to wake up. Get your head out of your ass. Stop being special. Stop acting in these manners and realize what you're doing to the babies, because this is horrifying. And if I have to indict you, I'll indict you. And it just takes more time out of my life. And but you're not going to get away with using children. So here we are. Are you back, Kat?
I am.
You are.
Yeah,
okay.
I am.
It's been hectic.
Yeah, boy. Is it any wonder that you have ulcers?
Well, I think as we go forward, a lot of my issues, you know, because I tend to take on a lot of stress from other people as well.
Right.
Which is fine. I mean, I don't mind it. As long as we're all sharing it all across the board, it shouldn't be that bad soon enough. The thing that's irritating me now is we really need to get on board with each other, gather around each other in community, and make sure that we hold the League of Nations and these perpetrators accountable for this onslaught upon humanity. This is human trafficking, going back to the General Welfare Clause of the Constitution. You are to be on general welfare. I am not advocating not paying taxes. The entity responsible for paying taxes is the corporations, the same corporations that are getting tax breaks, as you are used as products to maintain the corporate welfare system, otherwise known as the first and second welfare theorem, under and align with Pareto's rule, the 80-20 rule. And 80-20 is seen in all of your life. You'll go to your place of employment. You only hold. You're useful because all they have to put into you is 20%, and you have an 80% return. That's the 80-20 rule on that aspect. In the family court dynamic, Dad's going to get every other weekend. Mom's going to get the rest. That's 80-20. Those are the 80-20 rules. So Dad will have 20%. He will expend 80% of his value to get those children out. It's in reverse. If Mom's the one that's being targeted by CPS, it just flips back and forth, 80-20, 80-20, 80-20. And as soon as you hit the age of 50 or so, your production starts lagging. You can find this in economic research, MISIS, etc. You will be redistributed because you've got more than Caesar's got. You've got all these retirement accounts. You have way more than 20%. They're going to raise that. And this is all very, very precise.
Well, that just happened in 2008 when everybody got wiped off of their career paths.
Right.
In math.
Right, and that's the purpose. They've also done it with the using laws, antitrust laws, monopoly guidelines, these things. That's all, boy, the bigger picture is getting everybody off of full-time employment and allowing them choice. And this is what people don't realize, is election is not a choice. Election is the doctrine of elections, but you perceive this as choice. So you're going to go forth and you're going to think that you're a bad boy, you're a bad girl, you must have done something wrong, why are you unemployed now, whatever. That's the schematic. From that point forward, you begin to seek being a better product, better productive member of society. So you're going to change your way. You might go back to school. You're going to drop a lot of money into that, or you're going to get federal funding for that, whatever. Somebody's going to pick up the slack. And all of this is the schematic. You cannot hold any other biology in such a prison camp as you can human beings because they speak language. This is Babylonian theory. You can be made patriotic to your culture, language, school, county, whatever, but we're the only biology that this happens to. A lion, you cannot teach a lion psychology. You cannot teach it corporate psychology to make it maintain as a corporate product. It doesn't know UCC. It doesn't know the Negotiable Instrument Act, and it doesn't know the court. So if you invite it there, it's going to eat you. We're the only biology that is not self-defending when our children are kidnapped by court process. We're the only biology that is looking at attorneys as if they're our saving grace, although they're the predator. And we need to really wake up here and realize that's what's going on. Again, the number to call in is 661-467-2401. And Pat, how are you doing in the naturopathic health rooms this last week?
Well, I've been working with individuals, human beings who are dealing with diabetes, and it's really interesting once people get information on what sugar does to them and where sugar is hidden and found in starches and various fruits and things, and the need for protein to keep their muscle base, and how all of that interacts. It's pretty amazing to see how things change with blood sugar, and it really is possible to reverse diabetes, type 2 diabetes, in 2 weeks. Even less if you're, sticking with it, and it's really the hardest part is figuring out the food combinations and food changes. A lot of the packaged stuff you have to quit, and taking on fiber through vegetables, particularly the green leafy kind, kale, chard, collard. Those are amazing plants. And, I was watching Bill, come on, Val, last name. Can't remember. Anyway, I know Kate will remember for me. He's an amazing guy that actually breaks down with the pineal gland and all the biblical texts in translation to your brain. And he was talking about how plants, when they take in sunlight, that switches a photosynthesis, and when we ingest that plant, that works with our ATP, our energy stores. So in truth, it is light that keeps our energy going. And, most people, if they eat vegetables at all, they're usually a potato or some sort of a starchy kind, or peas or something like that. But, collard and chard and kale's been hitting a lot more popularity, but collard and chard, those are amazingly fibrous plants and highly dense nutrients. And, if you ingest those, take those in on a regular basis, and you can do a million different things with them, that will really help to balance out blood sugars. And, there's protein in vegetables as well. For a long time, I didn't believe that you could actually get enough protein or the right protein just through the vegetable, but you can. And I tend to believe that those who say that you have to have animal protein, they're paid. those people are tied into the system somewhere, some sort of a market.
And what's occurring is that when you cook, I try to eat raw. When you cook things, you're breaking down its protein structure into various metabolized states as soon as you start cooking something. And so you'll have more fiber now, you'll have more sugars, and so you're not really getting what you need because your cell, the RNA, recombinant DNA, the RNA specifically needs to be tapped on by lipids, and when those are missing, the cell doesn't go anywhere. And very specific, I was looking at the CDC's statistics on mortality in the United States. Number 7 is diabetes. And
actually, you can probably take the first 10 besides allopathic or what's it called, the medical error, medical mistakes is the number 1 killer. But anything after that is related. It's related to either obesity or diabetes or some internal problem because of the inflammation that it causes.
Right. From the things that we're ingesting. The Codex Alimentarius, it maintains the rates on what they can add to foods. I know that recently they're pushing to add aspartame to milk to make it's a thickening agent, and to make it thicker, to make it feel or taste more wholesome, as some expect. It's like, buying the pink chickens in the store. I had chickens all the time growing up, and as an adult, I farmed chickens. We raised our own chickens for years, and actually, when they're naturally dead and deceased, they are grayish in their appearance.
Oh, right.
But in the store, everybody's getting pink chicken because they think that they need to buy pink chicken, but those already have additives in them. And to keep a chicken pink or to maintain its shelf life, they have to feed the chicken arsenic, and the chickens are exposed to arsenic, and we are then exposed to arsenic simply based on the fact that we want pink chicken.
They finally admitted that there was arsenic in the chicken, and now, of course, that's another.
Absolutely, and as long as they warn you, they can do this, because after they warn you and tell you what's in these things, it's your choice of whether or not you want to die according to that process, and that relates to St. Hans doctrine.
Right. It's incredible. I was even looking at orange juice. Orange juice is they pasteurize and do all the homogenation and all of that, and then basically they put packets of flavor into it.
To make it taste orange, or to even a
so no wonder diabetics drinking orange juice are through the roof. And that's the other thing that we're finding is that metformin is a widely prescribed long-term glucophage is what it was called. Metformin now people take anywhere from 500 to 1,000 milligrams or more a day, and that's been the interrupter and the X quotient when we're working with blood sugar. It's supposed to lower it, but we're finding that it doesn't. It's raising it in some people. And they bring that to their doctor, and the doctor denies it and says, "Oh, it's you. You're eating something." It's like you actually have to prove to your doctor with a diary of everything you've eaten and your blood sugars, which of course you have to use the strips for, or poke yourself, a million times a day to see what's happening. And it's just such a burdensome thing for people who are under this control. And doctors the doctor I asked said he had 0 nutritional classes in his training. And everyone, generally the general rule is that we've given them credit for at least 12 hours of nutritional training, but that's not the case anymore, and they'll send their patients off to a general, maybe a nutritionist to help them figure out how to do their insulin on a sliding scale or something, but they're not there when you need them on a regular basis. The GI, the glycemic index, is very helpful for people if you're questioning what your should I eat this? Go take a look at the number on it, and what you're going to eat with it. It's a very helpful tool to let you know what's in things. But if it's packaged, if it's in a bottle, if it's in a box, you really have to evaluate what's in there. And 9 times out of 10, you shouldn't eat it.
Absolutely.
Sugar will kill you. The sugar, they get babies started on formula with sugar, setting the taste buds up for sweet, and it's meant to be. Sugar should be a toxin. It shouldn't be in and around the way it is through everything.
Absolutely.
Stevia is about the safest thing that you could use, or moderation. Honey's got a lot of valuable properties for anti-infection if you're going to put it straight to a wound. But now we have to watch out for honey that's corn syrup. Right. The Chinese sources are just using corn syrup and masking it with enough honey to get by. So if you're finding a really cheap honey, that's possibly what you're getting. Right. But it is very sugary no matter what. Sucrose, galactose, all sorts of different oses in honey. So,
can I bring in one other thing about high fructose corn sugar that most people don't realize? It goes back to Dr. Kozarev's research in torsion fields, and everything has a spin left and right. And one of the things that was discovered with high fructose corn sugar is it actually reverses the spin in your body, and it puts shields up so that you cannot get any cosmic information.
Wow.
It's a deliberate block.
Yep, and that's what the Codex Alimentarius establishes through the FDA food pyramid, is the establishment of a perpetual carb coma. So they're telling you need this much amount of carbs, you require this amount of carbs. However, most are not realizing that protein breaks down into carbohydrates. Fiber breaks down into carbohydrates. And when you look at the labels on the majority of foods out there, it's a great idea to actually look at the carbohydrate balance and the sugar content as well as the carbohydrates, because there's missing sugars in there. They do not have to list lactose. They do not have to list very metabolized forms of sugar. So what you're seeing, for the most part, is the overall carbohydrates, which could be like 33 grams. Well, you'll find that the sugars are only listed at 14 grams. Where are the other grams at? Where is the other measurement?
Right.
And this is what people, because it's that lactose, that is diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
Lactose consumption does not allow the preceding lipid to tap on the RNA to tell your body that you need glycolic acid, which is insulin, during the galactose phase. And so if you're consuming and ingesting lactose in that form, you are not able to ever produce insulin to burn that off. That is the heat phase of the metabolism, is going into that phosphorylase stage from the galactose phase. And without that preceding lipid to tell your body you need glycolic acid or insulin, it's not going to do anything. You're just going to have a hydrolyzed cell, and that hydrolyzed cell just explodes. It becomes a fat cell. And that's the majority of obesity in the country today, is lactose consumption itself, because your body's not able to metabolize it.
Wow. See, you almost have to be a chemist to figure out this stuff. It's just the easiest way is to just eliminate all, or as much as you possibly can. All refined stuff, anything, if you're drinking sodas, it's just a matter of time. But, to understand that's, pastas are starch, they break down. It's everywhere. And, people do use food to sedate themselves with, to calm down. Even if they're not aware, they do. It's illegal. It's legal. So, but the only thing is that most people, they'll do that in their privacy of their home or something, and so it becomes a syndrome then. And then you've got the doctor willing to give you some sort of a psych drug because of a compulsion.
Absolutely.
It's like, how these freaking minds figure this stuff out. I mean, they must spend, hour after hour just, figuring out how to tweak the human mind and body in a freaking million different ways. And, I mean, we're trying to find our way out of this maze, and at the same time you're being attacked and you've been held a prisoner and not even realized it. It's a freaking very interesting ride, this life.
Absolutely. And they don't have to think about it anymore. It's already been thought. What's happening is that most are rushing out to be diagnosed by television programming. They feel depressed or pressed down upon. They have no idea that this depression is maintained by the League of Nations. All of this pressure, the International Monetary Fund controls the scarcity of all known currency, which is the control of the inflation rate itself. They control the commodities. They control everything around you. And so as you're feeling depressed, they require you on these medications. This is your choice. If you look at the chemical composition of Seroquel itself, it is a sugar molecule. And what happens when you're taking Seroquel or other rohypnol derivatives, you are going into a carb coma. That's how it's helping you. It's just putting you into a carb coma. It's not changing your psychological makeup. It's not changing your anything that can be related to any psychosis or disorder. That word disorder means that you're not in order, you're in chaos. You're a human being. You're not to be written or on a piece of paper to be in order in the first place. These medications that they're proffering, the Zoloft and these things, they impede metabolism.
They do.
And, and this is horrifying because Seroquel alone is creating and maintaining diabetes, and worse than diabetes. You've got people on Seroquel now that are going through amputations because of the neuropathy the high sugars cause and everything else. And what we need to do is step away from the medical industry that's protecting you to death and come on over to the natural side. And, once you
even these drugs, they'll tell you they don't cure anything. They'll tell you right there on their site. You look it up, it'll say it doesn't cure diabetes. It helps to maintain whatever, moderate blood sugar or something like that. It's just helping you continue down a downward spiral.
Right. And
it's helping you by blocking some other function in your body and, like blood pressure medication. You take the blood pressure medication, your blood pressure comes down, but you gain 40 pounds and you have no libido. Okay, so then what? It's like compounded. Then what are they going to do? Give you Viagra, which causes a heart problem and causes the blood pressure to go back up. And if you just take sugar out of your diet, and add vegetables, add some green leafies, you will see a difference. All of this is reversible. If you take the inflammation out, it starts to function properly again. And the sugar, if you've got this mental addiction or you think you're addicted and your taste buds tell you, I have to have this right now, it's a matter of substituting for something that's healthier, that has some value to it. If you actually are having a drop in your blood sugar. But it's really not about dieting, and it's not about low fat. Fat actually helps to keep your blood sugar on a more normal course and to slow any natural sugars from, rapid entry, so you're not going on a roller coaster ride. And as you get off of these, sugary drinks and chips and junk, if you can, white knuckle it through, you're basically, wasn't it you, Tammy? It was you, Tammy, that was telling me that it's like Xanax. It's a benzodiazepine almost.
Right, and that's another additive that's in most things now is the preservatives of calcium, sodium, potassium benzoate. And the minute those are consumed, they start metabolizing into the benzodiazepine. And so you're just drugging yourself. You are taking Valium. You are taking Xanax by consuming what the FDA tells you to consume. And this is all found at the Codex Alimentarius. go to the Codex Alimentarius. And while you're there, go to the index. You sit down in your pantry and write down a list of things that are on the ingredient list, and then go through Codex Alimentarius index, and you will find how poisonous the things in your food actually are. You are being slowly killed by the medical industry, by the pharmaceutical industry here on this farm.
See, these, your doctor's a friendly person, hopefully he's a nice person. The doctor I go to for the thyroid, natural thyroid, is a great guy. He doesn't want to hurt anybody, but he's been taught a certain way. And the medical industry will tell you that there's no cure for diabetes. That's absolutely a lie. They're just not going to give you it. They haven't been taught that food, food. This is what like fuel to your tank. Food is what keeps the body alive. Why that doesn't, add up to a necessary component of health in the medical world it's staggering, beyond staggering. And these are logical people. Why they could not see that or think that that's a major portion of the quotient, we really have to take care of our own lives. We've pushed this off to professionals. My mom, she used to think that the doctor was like God, whatever he said, and she's gone. And on her bedstand was at least 5 bottles of medication, and she didn't want any of those taken away, and the pain pills. And the whole thing started with her because one doctor did a colonoscopy and didn't notify her that there was a questionable polyp in there. A year later, it's found and it's too late. So she gets half of her stomach removed, had wound healing problems. From there, it was downhill, just excruciating. So, she checked out. She didn't wait for the end. She couldn't take it anymore. She was on every type of pain pill. And she just said one night, that's it, and had the ambulance come and take her to the hospital, and she told the doctor she didn't want to come out alive. And he said, are you sure? And she said, yep. And so I was lucky enough to be there on that last day, and I held her hand, but I didn't recognize her when I got in there. So anybody who thinks that it's a slow, easy out, they medicate you, and you're not getting IVs or anything. Her mouth was dry, face was sunken. I think the freest she's ever been was when she left, and I'm just saying that's what happens.
And they don't give a rat's ass. They really don't.
No, not at that point. There was some other woman in a bed, next to her going through the
gurney
same
pushing.
thing.
Yeah, they're just gurney pushing. I should let you know there is a caller. Do you want me to bring them in?
Let her rip.
Let her rip. Here we go. Area code 419. 34, your mic is going hot. Yeah, are you there? Any questions or comments?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi. You know what? I just called in just to tell you how overjoyed that I am to have found all of you and how much I appreciate the message that you deliver to people. It's just beautiful. I'm the turnip here in the States. I emailed you, Kate, probably last week.
Okay. I'll have to go back through it. It is ringing a bell. I get a lot of email.
Yeah, I had to go through a friend who has Facebook in order to connect with you because I don't have that device. But
okay.
I love you guys, and I support you and listen to you and get inspired. Just to degrees that I never thought that I could actually achieve.
What inspires you? What's the message that rings a bell for you?
The freedom that you guys talk about and that you live, and just your inspiration to keep pushing to a new level and bringing it to people that possibly wouldn't have heard about it. I've been on the trail for a number of years, and all of you are just amazing, and I love you. That's it.
We love to hear that. That's great.
You're awesome.
And the love is reflected in the mirror. It's always there. You know, I'm hoping that I did reply to your email. I'm pretty stringent about replying to everyone that emails me.
You absolutely did, and I sent a package up to you. I
got it.
Emailed you. Yeah.
Okay. Now, yes. That was the protein stuff.
Oh, you got it.
It came today. I was actually going to announce that before the end of the show. Thank you
thank you
so much.
Yeah, there's Syncrenicity.
Awesome.
I don't know if you like those things, but I picked things that I thought possibly, you would appreciate, and they're organic and.
Oh no, I can't thank you enough. I was talking with Karen McDonald today. My situation's kind of, for lack of a better word, fucked. I have really no means to go and get fresh fruit and do the organic and everything that I need. Basically we're living out of cans and stuff like that for the last, I don't know, whatever. Which, hey, I'm here, I'm alive, right? But it's definitely not the healthiest thing to be doing. And I really don't have the means. Of course, the car is down right now, and I got 2,200 reasons that it'll be down for a while. But things like that are greatly appreciated, because I just don't have the luxury. One, I don't have the ferns. I don't have the means to go out, and yes, I'd love to go and get organic avocados, organic this, organic that, and all the rest of it. But it's just where I'm at right now, it's just not possible.
It's tough for a lot of people.
But the greens will be good for you.
Oh yes, the vanilla protein. I tried it today. Wow, it's amazing, and the fact that there's no sugar in it, it's beautifully sweet. There's no sweetener in it at all. It's just amazing.
No, it's just I believe stevia. I'm a pioneer in that area. That's all I really try and put into my body, because I know that it's the only way to stay ahead of things in this game here. For me.
That's the truth.
It is, and you know what? I'm not where you guys are. I would love to be in some of the places that you are, because it does afford you a different freedom than what I have, and I commend you. It's what a challenge.
I think it's all about standing where you're at in the capacity that you're able to, and it's not about a high bar or a middle line or comparing to someone else. It's your conscience. It's what you're. Now we all are pressed in, and some to extreme degrees, like Kate and others who are in like Tammy's situation, fighting back. The way we've learned at this point in time, but it's a matter of mental freedom and a matter of standing where you're at and aiming to push forward as best you can, and so don't underestimate yourself.
Well, I don't, but you guys have such brilliance, and I listen to that, and it just rings so true in my heart and my soul, and I can't thank you enough.
Well, I'm in your shoes there. These two folks here have really fought the battle, and Tammy has done such lifetime of studying things that no one would ever bother to study, which is where
I know
it's astronomical the amount of information she has.
Absolute firecracker. Wow. Well,
her saga, she's been through an awful lot. Maybe one day she'll bring it all out here, but she's lost fellow, freedom fighters in her battles and fighting for kids and getting them out of the system, and people who've been kidnapped, and the truth is a dangerous place to be in this world full of oppressive lies. But, that's where the light has to be. You have to shine it. And, like they say, one candle or one match in a room full of darkness.
Right. Margaret Mead said something like that. It only takes one person to make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, if you consider our toroidal field and how wide it is, we bring what we have in our mind with us wherever we go. So, as we're radiating in a higher vibration, it has to pull the lower up.
Mhm. Yes. I agree. And I'll get off the line now in case somebody else would like to call in. But
no, you're the only one here, and
you're still
no, it's fine. And I will say, Tammy had to pop off. Her dad just showed up, and
Whoa.
I can't thank Tammy enough. And I know a fair bit about the story of where she came from, what she's endured, what she's been through. People kidnapped, people murdered around her.
Wow.
This is what the system does to marginalize. This is when you're a terrifying individual to the system. If truth is such an issue with system, cops and all the rest of these judges and lawyers, the ones that actually think they're doing a good job, here, get the wax out of your fucking ears and listen up. Okay, here it is in a nutshell.
Yeah.
You think you're working for, doing good and what have you. You're actually working for the most oppressive darkness, and you were worshiping Baal, and you need to see that. And this is what people need to understand. When you have people like Tammy and so many others out there shining the light on all this scum, the pond scum that is, permeated through the fabric of the entirety of society. When you finally shine the light on it, and if people are really looking for truth, if this is really what they're looking for, there's got to be a willingness to stand. And I'm talking about the guys and girls on the inside that are our brothers and sisters, and they're the ones that are, perpetuating this murder, death, kill scenario that we're all dealing with. If truth is so, so scary, why doesn't the media, and we've sent enough information out, why don't they report it? Because they're not interested. They're paid off. Why don't, here's a beautiful scenario. Someone breaks into your house, steals all your shit, then steals your house and kidnaps you and everything else. Who are you going to call? The cops? They're the ones that fucking did it.
Mhm.
Right.
Who are you going to call? Ghostbusters?
It'd probably be a better choice.
That's exactly the point, But and this is what we're up against, and what people need to come to terms with very quickly is you don't ever think that you're going to call the cops and they're there to help you. They're there to serve their masters and serve you up in the human trafficking ring that has been established for so many centuries. And the more you worship your patriotic daddy, call it a flag. Makes it easy, stars and stripes that everyone rah rah America. I pledge allegiance to the flag. Are you kidding me? To a fucking piece of cloth?
Yeah, whose stripes represent bars.
Well,
seriously.
We kind of had it right in the 60s, and then that got squashed.
They
did. They squashed it.
Yeah, they turned the hippies into yuppies.
True. But there was some amazing energy
Absolutely.
during the time period. I'm possibly a little bit older than you, about 57. So
I'm 48.
I'm right there, honey.
Yeah, we're in the ballpark.
Okay. All right. But, I have always, since I was a kid and was never able to put it into words, I always felt that there was something more. And so I've been spending the last 50 years looking for it. 50 years.
Right.
Knowing it can't be just all there is. And as it turns out, it isn't.
Thank God.
Right. Thank God. And I just so much appreciate everything. It's helped expand me to higher levels of consciousness. And I try to be a good person. Sometimes I fall down, though. And do
just
the
be.
right
Don't
thing.
worry about that. Just be. Your consciousness is good. Your intention isn't to harm. They try to teach us and pound in our head that we're, born a sinner and all of this, and try to make us wrong no matter which way we turn, so we have to pay for it. That's one of the biggest mind shackles you have to break off.
But isn't it interesting when you know in your heart of hearts that what you know is the truth and it is right? And
yes. And learning to listen to that internal voice takes, many years for some people.
Mhm. Absolutely. But anyways, thank you so much. It was difficult to get up the courage to call in because I've heard so many brilliant people on the program, and their scope of knowledge is just incomprehensible at times, and I'm just like blown away and excited and thrilled that there's something here that I can eventually grasp. I don't get it all, but
me too.
Yeah,
it's amazing
all
the
right.
guests that Kate finds and critical mass in general. It's just an amazing array of people and what they bring to the table. It's like there's a whole world of information that's been suppressed and hidden from us, and now we get to discover it.
Yeah, it's quite a subculture. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, that's fine. I'm going to have to jet here, Pat. So you've got the board, hon. I've got the webinar to do. And Janet, thank you so much. The timing was impeccable, and gratitude is
definite.
There's no word for it right now, sweetheart. So I just want to let you know that you're loved, and thank you. It made a difference. And welcome welcome to the ranks. I mean, this is what
right.
We level everyone on the same field here. This is where we all gather.
Yeah, I love that.
We do it together, So I will sign off here. And thanks again, guys. Awesome show tonight. I got hacked there for about half an hour, so I couldn't get back on. But what I did here was absolutely beautiful, as always. And
I sure appreciate you backing us up.
That's all good. I'm here, right?
Yep.
Yeah, my whole existence is all about making sure the word gets out. So there you go. But
all right.
Thanks again, guys. And stay on the line with Pat. And there's only like another 5 minutes left. So sign the show out. It's beautiful listening to you guys talk. I'll hear it when I download the episode.
Yeah, help me out here.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go.
Okay, Pat. Well, you know
what? You're a co-host.
Yeah.
I'm with you on the whole corn syrup, mysteries that are out there. I mean, they weren't a mystery to me. I've been on this for probably well over 10 years when I first started seeing it. And, I'd tell people, and they'd look at me like, I don't want to
How did you come about discovering
corn syrup?
Well, the junk in the food and things like that. Some people are just now getting aware of GMO, for goodness sake.
Well, I didn't feel well for a long time, and I went to many specialists who couldn't find what was wrong. And I ended up going to this gentleman who did hair analysis, and he was highly recommended. And within one phone call, because he didn't have the results back yet, he told me what I needed to start doing as far as food-wise. And
what did he tell you?
Well, he told me that I needed to start my day, which I have ever since then, or it's probably been longer than 10 years, with protein.
Absolutely
he said
right.
The first thing that you put in your mouth in the morning, because then it regulates the whole system for the entire rest of the day. And I've always been sort of a purist anyways. And so as far as the corn syrup goes, I started just doing my own investigation on that. And I listened to a lot of David Wolf. He has a lot of audio, and the Patrick Timpone radio show, and just people like that are very knowledgeable, and they have unbelievable guests on their programs, and I've learned just tons of stuff. I mean, some of it, I'm not employing because it didn't speak to me on a spiritual level, but most
resonance
of it does. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's part of
so
listening to yourself and knowing.
Mhm. So I didn't buy into that whole new food revolution that's out there, and I see so many of my friends getting ill, and I look at people and they're aging beyond belief.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, you shouldn't be looking that old and tired.
Sugar will really age you. And of course, different skin types will show that even worse. But yeah, it's amazing the stuff that they hide.
Well, a very I don't know if you're really familiar at all with fermented foods.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, I eat those every single day, and I can't believe the difference. In all aspects, skin, gut health, because that is your second brain.
What's your favorite fermented food? Do you can it or do it yourself?
I did. You know what I do? I do it myself in the spring and summer when I can get to the farmer's market. I love kimchi. I eat natto.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Do you eat natto? That is really good.
I do. Yeah, natto has amazing qualities.
It's
really good for thyroid too.
Yeah, and it has K2 in it, which is amazing for the bone health.
Yeah, blood and everything.
Yeah. So I'm kind of I'm into a lot of things, and I know a little bit about a lot of things, but I'm not an expert in by any means in any of those
I think
areas.
we just go with what we know.
Right. I know enough to put in my body what makes me feel good.
And that's what matters, really.
Yeah, and I hope that people, get a clue. And when I heard that about the milk story, I heard that earlier this week, and it's just unbelievable to me. Actually,
not to mention that there's pus in milk, and there's allowable levels of pus in milk. I mean, I know.
Enough. When you think about what our people, the controllers, allow to put into foods, and just look at it like, that doesn't